February is usually a harsh, unfriendly month in Cleveland. Most who have endured even one of the long winters there will tell you that by February, their minds begin to play tricks on them. After months of lifeless gray skies, interminable snow, biting winds, and frigid temperatures, it seems, to many, that, through some ghastly quirk of nature, winter has become a permanent condition. It's no wonder that residents tend to be reclusive in February, limiting their excursions out of doors to the bare minimum. It was relatively unusual, then, to find a large crowd of Cleveland citizens gathered along the old riverbed at the foot of Taylor Street on the morning of February 16, 1882. Bundled against the frigid winds that rushed up the Cuyahoga River off Lake Erie, they had crowded into the new Globe shipbuilding yard to witness the launching of the steamer Anoco. The first iron-hulled bulk freighter ever built at Cleveland, the Anoco would, on that day, also become the longest and largest ship on the Great Lakes. Prominent among the throngs of spectators was Shipyard Superintendent John Smith, who had personally overseen construction of the remarkable new vessel. Smith, a native of Wales who had developed a reputation for working with iron while employed by the Grand Trunk Railroad, was almost oblivious to the cold as he basked in the many gestures of praise from attending officials of Globe Iron Works, the shipyard's parent corporation. Globe had gambled both its reputation and financial solvency to build the new freighter, investing heavily in the new shipyard and convincing one of the leading ship owners on the lakes that an iron-hulled ship would be superior to those built of wood. Construction had gone remarkably smoothly, but as the huge ship sat poised on her ways, Globe officials remained uncertain as to how she would actually perform. Iron had been used in ship construction since 1822, when the little Aaron Manby had been built at the Surrey commercial docks on the Thames in England for service on France's River Seine. The U.S. Navy had pioneered iron shipbuilding on the lakes in 1843, when the steamer Michigan was launched at Erie, Pennsylvania. She was the first iron vessel built by the Navy, as well as the first iron ship on the lakes. The 163-foot Michigan was still operating almost 40 years later, which had to be reassuring to the people from Globe, but some of them were, no doubt, aware of the embarrassing circumstances of the naval ship's send-off. If so, it's likely that they were praying silently that those events would not be repeated that day. The launching of the Michigan had attracted an equally large crowd, many certain that the unusual iron ship would never float. The atmosphere was tense as the timbers that held the ship were removed, and she began to slide slowly down her ways toward the water. Then, in an instant that would forever be frozen in the memories of shipyard officials, she ground to a halt. The repeated, strenuous efforts of the yard's workers failed to dislodge the ship from her perch. After a while, the throngs of disappointed onlookers disbanded. Even the frustrated shipyard staff went home, and the Michigan sat abandoned on her ways. How surprised and delighted the workers must have been the next morning, when, upon their arrival at the shipyard, they found the Michigan floating buoyantly alongside her now vacant ways. During the night, the stalwart little ship had launched herself, and was even then proving all her skeptics wrong. Not only did the iron ship float, but over the years she proved to be an able and seaworthy vessel. The first iron-hulled commercial vessel built on the lakes was the Merchant. She was launched in 1861, 20 years before the Anoco, for the Erie and Western Transit Company's Anchor Line. A propeller-driven steamer of 200 feet in length and 700 tons, she operated on the fleet's passenger and freight routes between Buffalo and Chicago.